Hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my winter TBR for 2026. So let's go ahead and get into it. So in 2025, I decided to create seasonal TBRs, and then I did a terrible job of actually reading the books on those TBRs. So we're gonna try again in 2026. I have a plan to hopefully get the books read on these lists so that I'm not just creating lists for no reason. So I will talk more about my plans for that in my channel updates video, but basically I am planning on doing seasonal vlogs where I am reading books from the TBR. So you will hopefully see these books and vlogs. We'll see how it goes, but I'm going to go ahead and take you through the 8 books that I'm putting on my winter TBR. If you watched last year's winter TBR, which I will link up above, some of these will sound familiar because I didn't get them read. So I carried over, I think, 4 books from that list and then added 4 more. So we'll see if I can get them read this year. Let's cross our fingers. I did do a pretty good job actually with the winter TBR. It was the rest of the TBRs that I didn't do as good of a job with. So anyway, let's go ahead and roll on into the books that I'm hoping to read in the winter season of 2026. So the first book on my winter TBR for 2026 is going to be No Exit by Taylor Adams. I have not read anything by Taylor Adams, but there are a couple of books that have always piqued my interest that I want to go ahead and give a try. So I'm going to go ahead and read part of the synopsis, and that's how we're going to do this video. So it says, this is a thriller about 4 strangers, a blizzard, a kidnapped child, and a determined young woman desperate to unmask and outwit a vicious psychopath. A kidnapped little girl locked in a stranger's van. No help for miles. What would you do? On her way to Utah to see her dying mother, college student Darby Thorne gets caught in a fierce blizzard in the mountains of Colorado. With the roads impassable, she's forced to wait out the storm at a remote highway rest stop. Inside are some vending machines, a coffee maker, and 4 complete strangers. Desperate to find a signal to call home, Darby goes back out into the storm and makes a horrifying discovery. In the back of the van parked next to her car, a little girl is locked in an animal crate. Who is the child? Why has she been taken? And how can Darby save her? There is no cell phone reception, no telephone, and no way out. One of her fellow travelers is a kidnapper, but which one? Trapped in an increasingly dangerous situation with a child's life and her own on the line, Darby must find a way to break the girl out of the van and escape. But who can she trust? So this one just sounds really interesting. Obviously, it's thriller, and I love a good isolated setting thriller, so I'm hoping I will really love this one. This one currently has a 3.98 rating on Goodreads, which is pretty good for a thriller, so I'm looking forward to reading this one, and that is the first one on this winter TBR. The next one on this list is one that was on my 2025 TBR that I didn't get a chance to read, mostly because there was an enormous hold list for this one, and by the time it was going to come to me, it was not a seasonal read anymore, and I didn't want to give it a read in the springtime, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This is focused on Russian folk tales, I believe, and it is the start of a series. So if I like this one, I will probably read the others in the series, but let me go ahead and just read the synopsis for this one. Again, this is a repeat from 2025, but hopefully I can actually get it read this year. It says, at the edge of the Russian wilderness, winter lasts most of the year and the snowdrifts grow taller than houses. But Vasilisa doesn't mind. She spends the winter nights huddled around the embers of a fire with her beloved siblings, listening to her nurse's fairy tales. Above all, she loves the chilling story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon who appears in the frigid night to claim unwary souls. Wise Russians fear him, her nurse says, and honor the spirits of house and yard and forest that protect their homes from evil. After Vasilisa's mother dies, her father goes to Moscow and brings home a new wife. Fiercely devout, city-bred, Vasilisa's new stepmother forbids her family from honoring the household spirits. The family acquiesces, but Vasilisa is frightened, sensing that more hinges upon their rituals than anyone knows. And indeed, crops begin to fail, evil creatures of the forest creep nearer, and misfortune stalks the village. All the while, Vasilisa's stepmother grows ever harsher in her determination to groom her rebellious stepdaughter for either marriage or confinement in a convent. As danger circles, Vasilisa must defy even the people she loves and call on dangerous gifts she has long concealed. This in order to protect her family from a threat that seems to have stepped from her nurse's most frightening tales. So yes, I am looking forward to reading this one. Kind of shades of Hansel and Gretel, honestly, with like the new stepmother or whatever. So I'm curious to see what I think about this one. I've heard good things. This one has a 4.09 rating on Goodreads, so I'm hoping that I will enjoy it. The next one on this list is another repeat from 2025, and that is The Fox Wife by Yangsze Choo. I really wanted to get to this one, but I just could never fit it onto my TBR. She has actually written a few books that I'm very curious about. This will be my first by her, and it obviously is an old book of the month book that I would like to go ahead and get read. So let's see what the synopsis is. This one has something to do with Chinese mythology, so here we go. It says, some people think foxes are similar to ghosts because we go around collecting qi, but nothing could be further from the truth. We are living creatures just like you, only usually better looking. This one says, in the last years of the dying Qing Empire, a courtesan is found frozen in a doorway. Her death is clouded by rumors of foxes, which are believed to lure people by transforming themselves into beautiful women and handsome men. Bao, a detective with an uncanny ability to sniff out the truth, is hired to uncover the dead woman's identity. Since childhood, Bao has been intrigued by the fox gods, yet they've remained tantalizing out of reach until perhaps now. Meanwhile, a family who owns a famous Chinese medicine shop can cure ailments but can't escape the curse that afflicts them. Their eldest sons die before their 24th birthdays. When a disruptively winsome servant named Snow enters their household, the family's luck seems to change. Or does it? Snow is a creature of many secrets, but most of all, she's a mother seeking vengeance for her lost child. Hunting a murderer, she will follow the trail from northern China to Japan, while Bao follows doggedly behind. Navigating the myths and misconceptions of fox spirits, both Snow and Bao will encounter old friends and new foes, even as more deaths occur. So it does sound really interesting, kind of got that mystery thriller vibe again that I've already mentioned I really enjoy, and it's historical fiction, which I also really typically like. So hopefully I can get this one read. This one is a little bit on the chunky side. This one has 384 pages, so it's not terrible, but I mean, the font is kind of densely packed, so we'll see. I will probably do this one on audio. I've heard that the audio is really well narrated. So yes, this will be book 3 on my 2026 Winter TBR. Next up is a book that I feel like everyone and their mother has read except me, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is the start of another series. I own all 3 books in this series, and I haven't read any of them, obviously. So it is time to actually get them read this year rather than just letting them sit on my shelf. This one is the Barnes & Noble special edition, so it has French flaps and the cover looks a little bit different, but it is the same book. I don't think it has like any extra content or anything, but let me go ahead and read the synopsis. Again, most people have probably already read this. I am kind of an outlier in this. I've just been collecting them and then not reading them. So it says, a curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark fae magic, friendship, and love in the start of a heartwarming and enchanting new fantasy series. Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is good at many things. She is the foremost expert on fairies. She is a genius scholar and a meticulous researcher who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. But Emily Wilde is not good at people. She could never make small talk at a party or even get invited to one. And she prefers the company of her books, her dog Shadow, and the fair folk to other people. So when she arrives in the hardscrabble village of something I can't pronounce, I'm so sorry, Emily has no intention of befriending the gruff townsfolk, nor does she care to spend time with another new arrival, her dashing and insufferably handsome academic rival, Wendell Bambleby, who manages to charm the townsfolk, muddle Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. But as Emily gets closer and closer to uncovering the secrets of the Hidden Ones, the most elusive of all fairies, lurking in the shadowy forest outside the town, she also finds herself on the trail of another mystery. Who is Wendell Bambleby, and what does he really want? To find the answer, she'll have to unlock the greatest mystery of all, her own heart. So obviously fantasy romance. I have not read a fairy book in a while, but I know a lot of people really, really like this one. So I'm hoping I will fall into that same camp since I do own the other two books in this series. Next up on this list is a book that I have actually owned for over 10 years, I think, and has been on my want to read list since like 2012. So it's time that I tackle it, and that is Sun and Moon, Ice and Snow by Jessica Day George. This is a fairy tale slash folktale retelling, so I tend to really like those. I've read a couple retellings of this same story before and enjoyed them, but this one says, blessed or cursed with an ability to understand animals, the lass, as she's known to her family, has always been an oddball. And when an Isborn polar bear seeks her out and promises that her family will become rich if only the lass will accompany him to his castle, she doesn't hesitate. But the bear is not what he seems, nor is his castle, which is made of ice and inhabited by a silent staff of servants. Only a grueling journey on the backs of the four winds will reveal the truth. The bear is really a prince who's been enchanted by a troll queen, and the lass must come up with a way to free him before he's forced to marry a troll princess. I think the version of this that I read before was East. I'll put the cover right here. I feel like it was East. There's a sequel called West, but I just read East. I liked that one. So this will be another retelling of that. This one has a 3.99 rating on Goodreads, which is pretty good considering that this book is quite old. As I said, it's been sitting on my Kindle unread, so it is time to actually get it off of my TBR. And as I've mentioned, I have good luck with fairy tale retellings, so let's hope this is a winner. The next book on this list is Thin Air by Michelle Paver. Last year, I read a book by her for my Winter TBR, and I really, really liked that one. She writes ghost stories that are historical in nature. This one is set in the Himalayas in 1935. It says, 5 Englishmen set off from Darjeeling, determined to tackle the sacred summit. But courage can only take them so far, and the mountain is not their only foe. As mountain sickness and the horrors of extreme altitude set in, the past refuses to stay buried, and sometimes the truth won't set you free. So nice short synopsis. This one has a 3.82 rating, but I really, really liked Dark Matter, which was the book on my 2025 Winter TBR. I gave it 5 stars, so I'm hoping that this one will be another winner by her. Her audiobooks are very atmospheric and creepy, so that is how I will be reading this one, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, the next book on this list is actually a 2026 release. It is scheduled to be published on February 10th, so I won't be able to get to this one right away. And as of right now, my library doesn't actually have it in their catalog, or I shouldn't say that. They have it in their catalog, but they don't have it any availability in terms of putting a hold on it. So I'm not sure how I'm going to get my hands on this one, but it sounds perfect for winter. So I want to go ahead and put it on this list in the hopes that I can actually find a copy. And that is Warning Signs by Tracy Sierra. Now I read a book by her, was it this year or last year, called Night Watching. It was one of the Literally Dead book club picks. I liked that one okay. Enough that I'm willing to give her writing another go. This one has a totally different synopsis, even though it is a thriller. Again, it is like the isolated setting winter thriller that I've already mentioned I like, and that another one is actually already on this list that I haven't gotten to yet. But this one says, 12-year-old Zach is cautiously optimistic. His father, Brom, whose business is in dire need of cash, has put together a father-son backcountry ski weekend to wine and dine his biggest investors. Schooled in outdoor survival by his mother, Zach is eager to prove himself to the hypercritical Brom. Maybe if Zach shows how useful he is, he can earn his father's love. But Zach knows to be on high alert around Brom, and he sees the way the group ignores the increasingly threatening conditions. For the first time in his beloved mountains, he is faced with the unknown, convinced that something watches their cabin from the tree line, something that leaves behind strange tracks and picks its prey clean. As the adults recklessly test the limits of the outdoors, Zach worries he might be in even more danger than he realized. Could the men around him prove more violent than the unforgiving weather and the strange creature lurking in the dark? Zach will have to rely on his wits if he hopes to make it home safely, but he knows all too well that the wilderness can be unpredictable even at the best of times, and at the worst, deadly. Now, this is a child narrator, which I don't always have the best of luck with, but I am curious to see how this book goes. As I said, this one actually has a 4.06 rating on Goodreads. It's probably not accurate. I don't know how many of these were actually ARC reviews and how many are just people like rating them. That's always difficult to tell on Goodreads with like a new release, but I do want to give this one a go. It sounds interesting, definitely fits the vibes that I'm looking for in terms of winter thrillers, so hopefully I can get my hands on this one and give it a read. And the final book on this TBR is another carryover from 2025, and that is One by One by Ruth Ware. This has been on my radar for a very long time, and this is probably her most highly rated book, I think. So I'm looking forward to reading it. This one says, getting snowed in at a luxurious rustic ski chalet high in the French Alps doesn't sound like the worst problem in the world, especially when there's a breathtaking vista, a full-service chef and housekeeper, a cozy fire to keep you warm, and others to keep you company. Unless that company happens to be 8 co-workers, each with something to gain, something to lose, and something to hide. So yes, very short synopsis again. I believe this takes inspiration from And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, if I'm not mistaken. I actually have the audio available to me through Libby. I have it suspended right now because I wasn't ready to read it because it wasn't the winter season. So this may be one of the first ones that I get to. We'll have to kind of see how it goes, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one and finally crossing it off my TBR. I have a couple other books by this author on my TBR that I would like to tackle in 2026 to see if she's actually an author for me or not. So we're gonna start with this one and hope that it's a good one. And there you go. That is my 2026 winter TBR. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of this video and would like to leave an emoji to show you were here, you can leave me a snowflake emoji in honor of the snowy thriller books that I have on this list. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.